Well, it's a very good evening, Monday evening. Welcome to the West Ham Weekly. Thank you all for joining me. Sorry I'm a little bit late, but so much to talk about, as per usual. And trying to sort of make sure I fill you all in on everything that's going on at West Ham at the moment. It's been quite traumatic. There's just so much stuff to talk about. But I'm going to cover the usual stuff. Going to have a look at our first game of the season. And well, I know a lot of people are quite unhappy about that. I'm going to talk a little bit about player news, latest injury updates and players leaving, quite a few of them apparently. And then a few other general things, as well as our latest transfer gossip. And trust me, there are so many transfers to talk about. You just don't really know where to start. The minute you sort of look away, you've got yet another link, another player linked to us. But before I do all of that, let's get into the chat, because I know you've all been patiently waiting. And I'll go straight to the top. Good evening to you, Sean. How are you? Please let whatever it is about sick note Barkley not to be true. Good evening to you as well, Sean. I only give you the news that's out there. I don't make it up. Good evening, Hammerette. I hope you're well. I'm not sure I'm going to be here tonight, so I'm not sure I'm going to be here tonight. Oh, have you got to go again, Hammerette? Second week in a row. I hope you're well. Good evening to you, Darren. How are you, mate? Try my best. Well, when she's gone, you can do what you want. Well, within reason. Graham, how are you, mate? I hope you're well. Thank you for joining. Good evening to you, Black Country. Nice to see you still on. Hammerette, just so you know, my input: disappointed with the performance and not the result. Key players were pretty poor, but Lanzini was okay. He wasn't any better than anyone else, Hammerette. Stop looking at his legs and watch the game he played. Let's scroll down. Who else have I got? Darren, good evening to you. Anyone else get the feeling all is not too well in the West Ham camp? Yeah, I'm going to kind of sort of touch on that a little bit. Have this feeling there's some stress between Moyes and our owners. I'm not so sure if it's the owners or if it's actually amongst the squad itself, to be quite honest with you. There seems to be a bit of unrest. And when I talk about the players that are being talked about leaving, then maybe we might understand why some of that unrest is there. Howard, good evening to you. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining. Mr. Singleton, how are you? Thank you for joining. Just signed Cody on loan. I think he's gone or he's about to go to Everton, but I'm going to talk about him as well. Martin, how are you? Let's face it, not too many teams will take points of City this season. Yeah, but not too many will take them if they play the way we did. Is Benny a replacement going to get more goals and assists than him? That is 9 goals and 12 assists. Moyes doesn't like him. I predict his replacement will run a lot and track back a lot. Yeah, probably turn him into another Fornals in a way. And we're not sure that Benny's going to go. We're going to have to wait and see, aren't we? Good evening to you, Ronda and Tony. Good evening, Tony. Morning all. Was it not at the end of last season that 2 clubs asked the FA to look into Everton's finances, and it was reported that they spend 90% of income on wages? Yet they apparently they're getting away with it because they sold what's his name to they sold 1 or 2 players, and they kind of saying that they're okay financially. I'm not so sure. Good evening to you, Fo. How are you? Howard again. Play Vlasic down the middle with Antonio, Bowen on the right, Scamacca up top. We will win game. Yeah, that's a good shout. That's a good shout. Other people have said the same thing. Good evening to you, Garino. I hope you're well. Good evening to you, Neil. How are you? Morning from Tony in Sydney from South Australia. 5:58. Dedication. I hope you're well, Neil. I hope you're well. Fo, Martin, Wolves want to play a back 2. Yeah, Cody's not suited to it, so they want him. So he wants playing time, but I've got a feeling that he's on his way to Everton. But we'll talk all about transfers later on in the show. Still would be 4 minutes late. You might have been right there, mate. Good evening to you. Who else we got? Steve WHU. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining, mate. Who else have we got? Say hello to people that I haven't mentioned yet. No, okay, let's go. Yeah, I said, yeah. So that was at 9:31. I wasn't that late then. I wasn't that late. Darren, Stella's. Now, Vinay, good evening to you. I agree, Garino. One of the half chances from Antonio Rice, Benny and Scamacca could have gone in. Then it would have been a different story. It would have been. We didn't play well. We didn't play well. But you're absolutely right. One of those shots on targets, and who knows how the game might have turned out. Kevin, how are you, mate? I hope you're well. Graham, bloody hell, still, it's almost time. I know. I'm going to be as quick as I can. I'm going to try and run through a lot of the stuff quickly. I won't linger on them too much. Trini, City had 2 efforts on target. One of those was a penalty, which is very true. We, as badly as we played, we didn't play well, but as badly as we played, we only contained them to 2 shots on target. And you're right, one of those was a penalty. Good evening, Andy. Sat outside enjoying a cold cider while waiting for the show. Oh, nice of you. Yeah, I'm sitting here in my room, and it does get a bit hot in here, especially with the lights and everything. Let's scroll down. I'll tell you what. Let's not scroll down. Why don't we start with the show? With Diop and Vlasic leaving, I hope we're really getting a new centre. Benny is given a chance. Lanzini's been able for art. I agree on Lanzini. So why don't we get into the first part of the show, shall we? So we saw the team news. There was a lot of people speculating that we was going to be the same lineup as it was last season, and people were really upset about that. We're not going to see any of our new signings. What's the point of buying all these players and blah, 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 blah. And people were upset. But let's be honest, and I think I said it in what I tried to do a preview. The cat's mucking around, going nuts. When I did a preview on the day of the game, the Sunday afternoon, I suggested, let's not forget that these are the players that gave us a lot of good memories last season. Fabianski, Soufal, Zuma, Creswell, Johnson, etc. We kind of knew, given what's happening with all the new signings. Areola, I kind of speculated, is Areola going to start? Here's your answer. Fabianski looks like he's going to be David Moyes' number 1. Everyone's got an opinion on that. My opinion is it should be Areola. And then what does he go and do? He gives away a penalty the minute he gets on the pitch. And then Downs, we knew Downs would be sort of a bench player more than anything. Scamacca, at least he came on. And he looked good. We know all about Agerd and his injury, and Cornet, he didn't sign in time. So we kind of knew that the first 11 was going to be more or less the players that lined up last season. And I know what a lot of people are saying about pre-season, and people talked about pre-season, how poor it's been, etc. And I, as much as I try to protect pre-season games and say, it's only for fitness, it's only, you shouldn't read too much into it, etc., etc. It kind of feels like we have been suffering. We haven't been on form, and there's an awful lot of talk about the training that Moyes gives the players, and most of them said legs are heavy, etc. And the training regime sounds quite a lot. And I don't know what's changed from the seasons before to this one, pre-seasons before, where the training seems to be a lot harsher on the players, and they did look quite leggy in the game. They did look like they weren't ready. And it kind of also didn't help that David Moyes said at the start of the game, we're not quite ready. What was that psychologically in the players' minds? All right, and this is a surprise with Moyes, because he usually has a sense of he doesn't really give an awful lot away. And when he made that statement about us not being ready for the start of the season, it kind of surprised me a little bit. And I just wonder, maybe it doesn't, but I wonder whether that played on one or the minds of one or two of the players to kind of hear that. And then also hearing on top of that, I think Souček have talked about it, Declan has talked about it, even Soufal, etc. About the training is hard. The players have said in order to get fit, the training has been quite rigid. And I wonder if that's all led to this. On top of the fact that we do know that we've got a number of injuries. We do know that we need players coming in. There are players that aren't going to be part of this squad going forward. And someone's just alluded to it. I wonder if there's a sense of unhappiness. I don't know if it's between the board and the manager, but certainly the team don't look as sprightly as they did, and it kind of showed in the way that we played against Man City. And we had one or two chances. The first 5-6 minutes or so, we were all over Man City, and if Antonio's header had gone in, we would have been 1-0 up within 5 minutes. We really took it to them. But it seems that those first 5 or 6 minutes or so took that took it out of us completely. And then the rest of the game, we were almost chasing shadows in a way. So we were sluggish. And it showed. And it showed in our performance, etc. And we kind of gifted them a win. Am I disappointed? I'm certainly disappointed as everybody about the way we performed. Am I disappointed at the result? Even if we played, not well for 90 minutes, it would have been a tall order. But I keep remembering what it was like when we played them at the end of last season, the penultimate game of last season, and how well we played. And we kind of went back into ourselves again. We almost started to give them too much respect, and we played within ourselves, and then it was a shame. So with regards to the starting lineup, I think we all knew that we were going to see all the players that played last season, and none of our new players. But it was great. It was a shame that Fabianski got injured. You don't. The last thing you want is a player to not be picked because they're injured. You want players to be picked on merit. So I was actually quite glad that Areola did take over. And like I said, within a few minutes, he was cold, wasn't he? He was, he didn't have time to get involved in the game. And the first thing he had to do was try and take the ball off the feet of Haaland. And there you go. Other than that, I mean, we had a couple of chances in the second half. I talked about Declan's shot over the bar. I think Benrahma, when he came on, he had a pretty easy shot for their keeper to save. We had one or two chances. So if we'd have taken one or two of those, who knows how the game might have turned out. Their second goal was, it cut us open, didn't it? And it shows that we really need. Ironically, we really need to get a centre back in. I mean, if a Gerd was there, probably things would have been different. But we were found wanting for their second goal. It was a fantastic ball through. I can't remember who threaded it through, but my goodness me, it split our defence in two, and Haaland was free. You knew he wasn't going to miss from there. So disappointing result, absolutely. It's just one of those days where it would have been nice to have had a little bit more about us, I think. And there's not much more to say. Look, when it comes to our game on Sunday against Nottingham Forest, I don't think we're going to see the same lineup. Maybe Dawson will be back. I'm going to talk about injuries later on. We know Cornet will be available to play. And I just wonder if Antonio, a lot of players didn't play well. And Antonio had one or two sort of opportunities, but he kind of picked up from where he left off last season for me. And I would be very surprised if Scamacca doesn't start against Nottingham Forest next weekend. But let's move on. It wasn't a great game. It wasn't pretty to watch. It was just one of those games where you just felt, as it went on long, it's one of those games where you kind of wanted it to finish. And it's a shame, really, because the first game of the season, you're excited about it. You want to go and see your team play. That you want them to put in a good performance, but it just didn't happen for us. I hope we've got that. We've shifted away that sort of legginess. We've shifted away that sort of like mindset, etc. And I hope we go into the Nottingham Forest game next weekend in a completely different mindset. Before I move on to other things, I just want to talk about one or two things. Now, we introduced NFC right across the board at the stadium at the weekend, and it was chaotic. Let's not lie. The NFC season tickets was chaotic. This was the queue. Not on my, I think it was my turnstile. It was the one before. Jay was definitely absolutely chaotic there about 10 minutes before kickoff. People couldn't use the car, their phone. Things weren't beeping them in, etc. And it was a nightmare. And then, ironically, we got to Ara. I go through in turnstile K, and there were a couple of people in front of me who couldn't get through. There was a steward standing inside just watching. And my God, I was saying, come and help him. And people were just watching rather than sort of coming to help. It wasn't good. It wasn't good. But the good thing about the NFC tickets now is you can get them in different ways. So for those of you who are season tickets holders, what you can do is you can either download the NFC as it is, and it automatically updates. It will update to the next game against Brighton, or you can go into your e-ticketing account and you can download a PDF copy to your email address. So if you don't want to use the NFC ticket, you can sort of press, there's the button in your e-ticketing account. You go to the game, the next game being Brighton. You click on your ticket. It's manage tickets, manage tickets and e-ticketing. You click on that. It gives you an option to download your ticket to your email address. So you can do that. Alternatively, if you look beyond, if you've got an Apple wallet, there's a little couple of bars at the top or a couple of dots. If you press those, you've got a QR code behind it. You can use the QR code at the turnstile. Or if you've got a Google wallet, you just scroll up and you've got a QR code at the bottom there as well. So you can also get in through your QR code. So there are alternative ways. And if you really want to be a traditionalist, and a lot of people do want to, you can even now write to the email West Ham United and tell them, insist that you want a season ticket card. And people have been receiving their season ticket cards as well. So it wasn't good, West Ham. It really wasn't. And while I was in the stadium, I had a look at. So this is my view of where I look at the new West Stand, and I was looking at it and I was thinking to myself, you know what? It's not that bad. It's not that bad. And then I kind of kept looking and thinking, why didn't they just straighten it? You see the blue that goes round the edging around where the supporters are sitting. If they just straighten that bit out, further forward, more or less where the stewards are sitting on the ground, if they just straighten that out, wouldn't that have been even better? A lot closer to the pitch, etc. For the fans, it would have moved the dugouts closer to the pitch as well. Okay, the problem will be that those people on the straightening bit would have been uncovered. But that's what they did when they straightened out the Bobby Moore lower and the Trevor Brooking lower behind the goals. They wrote to people and they said that you will be uncovered, you will be partially uncovered from the roof, and so you could have given people the option in the West End. Look, if you want to give them a cheaper ticket like they did for the Bobby Moore lower and the Trevor Brooking lower, and say, if you want to sit there, we'll give you a cheaper ticket to sit there, a cheaper season ticket. And that's what they could have done. I kind of think it actually doesn't look too bad, but at the same time, I thought, why didn't they just straighten the whole thing out? Anyway, it is what it is. But here's the surprising thing. What on earth is that? That is at the end of the West Stand. And there's another one beyond that. It are the away supporters. And there's another one like that. I mean, incredulous. I mean, can you imagine you're a fan and you go there? A lot of the reason why it's called Chav's Corner there is because there's a lot of banter with the away fans, and there's the chanting and the singing, and the mudslinging and all that. And I know there's been a few problems, especially in the Europa League games last season, where people were throwing things at each other and so on. But look at that disgusting, that wall. I mean, why? I mean, one of the things that people complain about the stadium is about the atmosphere. But one of the things about the atmosphere is you have the banter with away fans. How on earth you can't even see them? Now, if they wanted to sort of section it off and stop people throwing stuff at each other, put some netting up. Every European, or virtually every European stadium has got netting that sections off the away fans from the home fans, etc. There's absolutely no need to put a bit of bloody MDF up. It's ridiculous. I was shocked, and it just looked so stupid and so ridiculous. And it kind of felt like, if you really want to dampen the atmosphere any further, this is the best way to go about it. And I think fans, not only in the West Stand, but I think everybody should write to West Ham and say, for goodness sake, take that down. And if you want to put some barrier, put some netting up. At least you can see the fans beyond the netting, etc. I couldn't believe it when I saw that. I thought that was absolute madness. Right, let's go into the chat before I'm going to. No, I'll tell you what I do. I won't go into the chat because I just want to talk very briefly about the Europa Conference League. So, as we know, we were either going to play B36 Torshavn from the Faroe Islands or Viborg from Denmark. Now, Viborg from Denmark played B36 Torshavn last week, and they won 3-0 in the first leg. They got the next leg on Tuesday night, and the winners of the two legs will be playing West Ham United in the playoffs on the 18th and the 25th. And we play our first game in the playoffs at home at West Ham. So it looks like it will be Viborg who will be going through. So What do we know about them? Founded in 1896. They play at the Viborg Stadium, the grand capacity of 9,500 fans. Now, I said in a show I did last week that I thought it took 6 hours to get there because it's up in the northern part of Denmark. I was corrected. And thank you to the Scandinavian Hammer fans who messaged me and said, you got that a bit wrong somehow. You can get from Stansted to Billund Airport within an hour and a half. And then it's about 70 minutes drive from the airport to the stadium itself. Viborg, they've been Danish champions, Danish Cup winners, Danish Super Cup winners, and they have played in Europa. I got that wrong as well. So again, thank you for correcting me. They played in the Europa League once before. They play obviously in the Danish Superligaen. 12 teams there. They finished in 7th position. I was also explained as to how all that works out, and because they split the league in 2 halves, you know, the 1st to 6th and 6th and 7th to 12, and then they play kind of playoffs, etc. And that's how Viborg got their place in the Europa Conference. Playing style, they're likened to. Thank you to Kenneth, who gave me all this information, and also someone else, and I've forgotten his name, and I do apologize, who watches the show, but they liken to a championship type of Brentford team. You know, they play a 4-3-3 style. They've got a big front man up front. They're quick passing, a counter-attacking style. They recently beat the champions, FC Copenhagen, 4-2 the other day. They're currently 4th in their league. And as I've said earlier, they've also beaten Torshavn 3-0 in the first leg. So it looks like we'll be going to Denmark for our playoff in order to get into the Europa Conference League proper. So let's go into the chat and see what comments we have. Vinay, I hope Moyes is not doing a Benny on Areola by picking an old man ahead of him. I mean, it destroys his confidence. I'm surprised. I am. I don't know what to say about that, because for me, it should be Areola, but then look what he went and did. Neil, I think we have a problem finding the start button. Is that me finding the start button? Black Country. As a team, we are weak in most areas. We need major investment. I don't think this board are capable. It's all spent. Well, I would disagree. We've actually spent £100 million on 5 players, and we're not finished yet. So it really, it cannot be. I'll tell you one thing about transfers. Certainly when it comes to paying wages, we are not going to be in that league of paying players Champions League wages when we're not in the Champions League ourselves. You know, here's the catch-22. We need to pay players big money in order to make it into the Champions League. But then I think I spoke to someone, I think I was chatting to someone, and I reminded them of Leeds United many years ago when they were chasing the Champions League dream under David O'Leary, and they spent big. They spent a lot of money on players, on wages, etc. They really went for it. They made it to the Champions League, but it crippled them financially because it wasn't sustained. You know, the one thing that you got to do is get there, but then it's got to be sustainable. You've got to get there and get there and get there and get there. And this is the catch-22. Look at what's happened to Leicester. They made it, but they haven't sustained it. So it's one thing about paying big money and big wages and big transfer fees, etc. If it doesn't work, or even if it works only for a season or two, and then it backfires on you and you don't maintain that position, that's when things go wrong financially. So I get it. I'm beginning to understand more and more as to how, you know, we're managing transfers, we're managing players, etc. I'm really quite glad that we haven't relented on 2 players that we were going for with regards to salaries, Lingard and Onana, who are asking for silly money, you know, and we've got a wage structure. We know how much we can spend. We know how much we can go up to before things hit us in the backside, and it becomes financially difficult for us. So I'm getting it now, and it's taken me a while, and the only reason why I am beginning to get it is because I have to do all this stuff for the show and understand it, talk to people, etc. And when you start to sort of see all sides of transfer business and salaries, etc., you sort of sit back and go, oh, you know, and I wish we had a mega rich owner, or do I? Do we want to sell our soul? This is the whole thing about West Ham United. You know, we're not that sort of club, are we? Or do we want to be that sort of club where we get bought out by some mega rich oligarch, or, well, not oligarchs now, but, you know, Arab or whatever it is, and sell our soul? I'm in two minds now. Of course I want us to do well. I'm really hoping this season we win a cup. I don't care which one it will be. A domestic cup will be fantastic. An FA Cup final will be great. But even the Europa Conference, I'm not going to sniff at that. You know, I hope we actually go out there and try and win it. So it's going to be interesting. Garino, come on, still transfer. Very funny. Daniela, good evening to you. For all City's possession, they only had 2 shots on target, 17 shots in all games, 1 every 5.3. Bloody hell. I thought I was the stat king. Thank you for that, Daniela. Vinay, Antonio has 1 chance. Rest of the game, it was fall over, demanded free kick. He didn't play well at all. It wasn't good. It wasn't good. But I can't point a finger at just one player. But he was, you know, for Moyes to have taken him off for a player that wasn't fit probably says a lot. Albie, good evening to you, mate. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining. Good evening to you, disabled team. I'm very well. I hope you are too. Good evening to you, Lee. How are you, mate? Do you think we'll sign any more players before the Nottingham Forest game? Yes, I do. Who? I don't know. But yes, I do. And I've got so many players to talk about. And I promise you, I'll try and get to them before midnight. Tony, the worry for me is that we played the same way we did in pre-season. Well, yeah, we did. I agree now, and I know I tried to be dismissive of it. I know I tried to sort of go, well, it's only pre-season friendlies. It's all about, you know, getting match fit, etc. But we carried that into the game, and that wasn't good at all. Good evening to you, Clive. Well, Clive, mate, we were going to meet, and then things all went a bit haywire at the supporters club, didn't they? So I didn't know where you lot were. We ended up back in the Grove after the game, after trying dismally to get into the supporters club. But things will be sorted at the supporters club. If anyone's a supporters club member, you know, they are sorting things out. Julie, how are you? I hope you're... What have you done? It's not your arm, is it your leg? I hope you're all right. You went to the hospital today, didn't you? I hope everything's all right. Good evening to you, Anil. I got knackered just sitting in the sun at the game on Sunday. Which bit were you in, mate? Good evening to you, Epic. I hope you're well, mate. We need to sell Lanzini. It's not that we need to sell Lanzini, but Lanzini needs competition, because at the moment, if you think about it, the only competition that Lanzini's got is primarily Vlasic. People will also say Fornals, but David Moyes has got Fornals to play a completely different type of game, hasn't he? Whereas Fornals was once a number 10, now Fornals is the water carrier, you know, and he'll play that slightly more defensive role. So really, the only competition Lanzini's got is Vlasic, who may be leaving. So I think we need to at least get competition for Vlasic and sorry, not Vlasic, Lanzini, and we might see a different Lanzini. Good evening, Stella. Love your show. Well, unless I've changed sex, mate. Thank you very much. Good evening to you, Lee. I hope you're well. Good evening, Jovi. I hope you're well, mate. Thank you for joining. Good evening to you, Learn to Dig. I can't call you Learn to Dig. Why don't you give me your name so I know who I'm talking to? Not that I'm going to remember them all, though. Learn to Dig, good evening to you. Clubs will be doing business right up to the deadline. I suspect Moyes wants a couple from Chelsea, not Barkley. In fact, you can leave out the player profile too, Stel. I'm going to talk about him whether you like it or not. You know, it could be a possibility, but I'll get to that later. Scarborough, good evening to you, mate. Come on, your irons. Look at a lot of the clubs struggled in the first game. Perfect example, Liverpool. Yeah, you know, this isn't when did the Premier League become easy? And how many times have we had Man City as our first game in the Premier? Is that the 4th time or something in the past 5-6 seasons? That's all right, Lee. No problem, mate. Julie, they're okay financially at £4 a pop for a Sprite. Well, are you talking about the support, the stadium? And everybody's having a go at the owners, at the club. Bloody prices in the stadium. Do you know what? There's two. First of all, the owners don't own the drink and food stuff, you know, so it's not down to them. That's down to the LLDC or whoever runs or whoever's got the contract for the catering and so on and so forth. There's an easy answer: don't drink there, don't eat there, and when they realise that no one's buying any food or drink, they'll soon put the bloody prices down. Trust me, the more you drink there, the more they'll keep the prices as they are. I won't have a beer in there now. Sod that. Not for what, £7.20 a pop. John Layton, good evening to you, mate. The players that will be going are not Moyes players, where they signed GSB signings when Moyes wanted other players. Well, I think Vlasic was unfortunately a Moyes signing. He wasn't a gift. Benrahma, no. Diop, no. Yeah, admittedly, they were Pellegrini signings. But, no, Benrahma was a board signing. Diop was a Pellegrini signing. But Vlasic was a Moyes signing. Good evening to you, Paul. I hope you're well, mate. Thank you for joining. Good evening to you, Conan. How are you, mate? I hope you're well. Good evening to you, Razor. How are you? Vlasic will be good making the tea half-time. You can't score, can't assist, get knocked off the ball easily, has no pace, blah, blah, blah. And guess who's going for him? Napoli. They're not a shit team. It's weird, isn't it? How some, and people have been saying, I bet you if he does go to Torino or Napoli, I bet you they play him as a central second striker, attacking midfielder, and I bet you he'll be the dog's bollocks. But there you go. Good evening to you, Yuha. How are you, mate? I hope you're well. Good evening, Tyler. Just watching the West Brom versus Watford. Ismaila Sarr and Grady Diangana is way too good for that league. Do you know what? I read right at the last minute tonight, I couldn't fit him in, about, that we're probably going to be interested in Ismaila Sarr yet again. So I promise you what I'll do, probably tomorrow or later this week, I'll do another update on all the transfers, because they're just like, what? Another player. The minute you've written about one player, there's someone else that's come in that we're apparently interested in as well. It's absolute chaotic. It's madness. P-Gads, good evening to you, mates. The only opinion I have on the game is that Cressy and BJ aren't centre-backs. No, they're not. Ben Johnson, I feel sorry for him. He's being asked to play at left back, which he's done fairly well. He's primarily a right back, and now he was asked to play at centre back. And I mean, it wasn't his fault, but he got caught out completely through that slide rule pass for their second goal. I feel sorry for him. Sometimes some players can cope with being asked to play various positions. Some players can cope with being asked, like Antonio has done, be right back, be right wing back, play midfield, go up front, etc., etc. Other people just need that stability. And he's still young, Ben Johnson. He gets slated a lot for a young player, and yet he keeps filling in at left back when he's asked to. He keeps filling in at centre back when he's asked to. He plays his natural position rarely at right back. And yet many fans are on his back. And I don't really quite get that. Good evening to you, Committee of Small Garden Birds and Voles. Diop's tweet, Insta, was very interesting. Yeah, saying that Moyes was talking bollocks. Basically, Moyes is talking, either way, it ain't good. One of them is blatantly well, it ain't good. And that's why I kind of said a little bit earlier on about the vibe in the at the club. It's not good. We need a clear out. I hate thinking that, but we need a clear out, and we do need a couple more players to come in. Epic. Moyes has a history of lying to the fans. He lied that we didn't sign a striker because no one was available. Possibly. Keith, that group of West Ham players look like they have shot their bolt to me, and even Moyes said the squad is stale. I think Moyes has got what he can out of them. Need fresh blood. We do need fresh blood. There's absolutely no, I'm not saying for 1 second that we don't need fresh blood, but even that for Moyes is unusual. Turning round and saying that about the squad, that to me was like, wow, that's not like you. Good evening to you, Troj. How are you, mate? Razor. Others buy these players and we're looking at them. Moyes, wake up and stop wasting time on players that don't get through being incompetent. Good luck. This is another thing you see, and I just don't know what to believe anymore, because, you hear about dithering. Even I have accused David Moyes of dithering. It's like, for goodness sake, go and get that player, just like you, Razor. And then you hear about what's going on. When he turns around and said, we put so many bids in for players, and then it's just getting them over the line that's difficult. And of course, we look over our shoulders, don't we? We look at the Aston Villas and the Nottingham Forests and all that sort of stuff and say, how have they signed 8 players, 10 players, 11 players, a dozen players, etc.? And how have we only signed 5? Difference being, they're filling up their squads, and we've done it before. You remember the first season in the new stadium under Bilic, and we went and got ourselves, I don't know how many we got, 6, 7, 8 players, etc. They were all like average. None of them really gelled. It was like a real mishmash, etc. And we did poorly that season. And look at Forest. They bought what, a brand new first 11. They didn't look all great shakes at the weekend either. So going out and buying players doesn't mean you're going to have a success straight away. And I'm getting what Moyes is trying to do. It's slow. It's painfully slow. I absolutely get that. But in the 5 players that he's got, he's said, we know we need a future replacement for Fabianski. All right, Areola was there last season, but all credit to them for getting Areola over the line and permanent. And as I said a few weeks ago, when he did sign, Areola's been at PSG since he's been a kid. This was the first permanent move away from PSG. Big move. Downs, we lost Kral and we lost Noble. Downs, a future centre midfielder. We know that we're going to need more players in midfield. He's done that too. Again, it's just a shame he's been injured. But again, we know we need a replacement for Ogbonna, a long-term replacement for Ogbonna. He's gone and got a Gerd. He's let Masuaku go, and he's got what will be a much better player in Cornet. Cornet has got an end product to him. He can score goals. He can make goals. So that's an improvement as well. And of course, it's only taken us 18 months to get a striker. But again, we know we need someone that's going to be looking at, Antonio's going to be looking over his shoulder. So I'm getting it. It's slow and it's absolutely painful. I get that as well. That Moyes has taken a long time to get these 5 players in. And what he'll do is he will get another 2. I'm hoping now, my calculation is it's got to be at least another 2 or 3 players. But I'll talk about that later on. And if he does, damn well he's not just going to just throw money at any player. And he said it himself, I'm not going to get players in for the sake of it. I'm going to get the right players in. We get frustrated because our season has now started. It's obvious we've got gaps, etc. But he's just not going to go out there and buy anybody just for the sake of it. So I'm getting it. It's painful. I feel your pain, Razor, but I'm getting it. Chris, good evening to you, mate. I hope you're well. Good evening to you, Peter. How are you? Learn to dig. Flynn Downs might not threaten goal, but he certainly was. I think he was impressive for the few minutes that he had. I thought he did really well. And I think there's more to come from that young lad. Has Moyes lost the dressing? I don't think so, mate. I don't think so, Peter. I think what Moyes has lost is certain players that know they're not going to be starters for him. Diop knows he's 5th choice, even behind a Gerd who's injured, ironically. But no, Diop knows he's not going to be first choice. Vlasic knows he's not going to be first choice. Benrahma might have that inkling that now that Cornet is here, he's not going to be first choice as well. So players get upset. And I've been thinking about this. When you look at teams like, I don't know, Chelsea and Man United, well, not Man United, Chelsea and Liverpool and Man City, etc., you ask yourself, how come all these big name players are happy to sit on the bench? Because the managers of that team, they rotate them, because what you're doing is you're taking one player out, you're putting like for like in. He's as good as the player that's on the bench and vice versa. Whereas what we've had clearly is over the last couple of seasons, we've had a very, very good first 11. Then we've got a very good maybe 2 or 3 after that. And then we're sort of like, we plateau out and, the rest of the players haven't been really that great. What David Moyes is trying to do is trying to get 15, 16, 17 players who are all very good. But the problem with that is these players, because of it's West Ham, don't want to sit on the bench. They're going to be going, well, if I'm as good as him, why are you picking him over me? Unfortunately, we're not big enough to be able to make these players happy. And I know you're all going to say, well, of course, the likes of Liverpool, etc., they play Champions League and this and that and the other. We're in Europe. We're going to be playing more games. The FA Cup hasn't started. League Cup hasn't started. We're going to be in those. We're going to be in the Premier League, obviously. And we're going to be in Europe as well. So we can offer, like we did last season. What David Moyes wants to do, he doesn't want to be looking at his bench thinking, I haven't got anyone to bring on that's going to make a difference. What he wants to do is have players that are going to make a difference. It's going to be, so I don't think he's lost the dressing room, but he's losing players that know they're not first starters. So then how do you bring in more players and keep everyone happy? That's his job to do. Kevin. Hi, Stel. That's why you have pre-season to get players ready for the season. I agree. I do agree. I think it's... I don't know what went on in pre-season, but the players were talking about how leggy they felt. Garina, I'd bring Downs in next match for Souček. Souček didn't have a good game, but then again, who did? I mean, we know what David Moyes is like. David Moyes is just not going to bring Downs in straight away. He's going to ease him in another 5 minutes, and it's frustrating again. Another 5 minutes, another 10 minutes, and so on. And I think eventually Downs is not the sort of player that's only for the future. He looks decent, and that will make Souček sit up and go, hang on a minute. I've got competition now as well. Schmiegel, good evening to you, mate. I hope I haven't missed much. You haven't, mate. I've just been ranting. As I usually do. Vinay, Moyes' favouritism is contributing the unhappiness. He loves old players. He's very loyal, isn't he? And I won't lie, that is extremely frustrating. He's very loyal. Yeah. And is that to the detriment of some players? Maybe. If Areola starts saying, hang on a minute, mate, you've signed me and now you're benching me, what's going on? Then we know we're going to start having problems. Razor, Scamacca, what a player and top striker. We really don't deserve with Moyes dithering, as usual, on the players coming in. I think Scamacca is going to be good. Very good. Vinay, I think Conor commentary or Downs should have started ahead of Lanzini to get a fresh approach, players who are excited to play. That's a good shout. Yeah, I quite like Coventry. I'm quite glad he's getting his opportunity. Got a feeling he might still go out on loan, maybe. But yeah, that's a good shout. Forgive me if I don't read all your comments. Otherwise, it would be impossible to get through the show. Personally, Eamon, good evening to you. I think you're reading too much into one game. If we win the next two, this game will be forgotten. That is extremely true. Yeah, I totally agree. That's why, there's been a lot of negativity going on. A lot. And it's really difficult to sort of sit back and switch off from it because, like, oh my God, slow down. It's one game. It's one game. Slow down. All right, look, if we're like 5, 6, 7 games into the season and we're still playing like this, then even I will start moaning and going, what the hell's going on? But you're extremely right, Eamon. It's one game. Foe. The moment I saw Johnson at centre back, and you were in for a long afternoon, but that's not his fault. But yeah, it's. I feel sorry for him. He's not being given an opportunity to play in the position that he favours. Let's scroll down. Jovi, it was a shame we didn't find the net after scoring in every single home game last season. Almost ironic after we finally signed the striker. That's a good point. I didn't even think of that. Schmiegel, NFC, isn't that a name of an NFL division? I don't know. KFC, I think it was in the end, mate. PCADs, just get ready for European away games and bum rush the gates. No, don't do that. That's why we got a warning last season. Robert, maybe the early season start this year didn't help. Season started well. Moyes has said that as well, but we're all in the same boat. Every team's in the same boat. Moyes alluded to the fact that, hang on a minute, everything has been condensed. With COVID and all that sort of stuff, and the World Cup in winter, etc. He said that the seasons have been, condensed, and although they've had a bit more of pre-season than I think last year, it's still. They need a proper break. I'm not gonna sort of, they're athletes. They get paid a lot of money. They should be able to focus and be ready, etc. But it must be quite daunting. A lot of people keep having a go at Souček, and let's not forget this was Souček's first proper break because of not having to play any international games, apart from right at the tail end of last season. This is his first proper break since he's been with us. So let's scroll down. Good evening to you, Mandy. How are you? Thank you for joining. Jovi again. Good idea to straighten the West Stand, but we can't add rows in at the front due to the rake of stand. The rake of stand. We would need to create a gap at the back. Well, no. And that's what I've been told. We need to go because you'd have to bring. No, I'm talking about leave it as you've done it, but straighten that front bit out. That's all. So add more seating. Basically, but you might be right. I might be wrong. I don't know. No, actually, when you think about the slope, yeah, maybe, yeah, maybe you're right. Stephen Baptiste, good evening to you. It doesn't matter if it doesn't matter. It's there. They was still chucking stuff over it. Oh, you're talking about the wall, the Berlin Wall. It's silly. I hope they bloody well get rid of it. I really, really do. Peter. Sponsorship deal with Wars. Now we have signed Cornet. It's not Cornet, as I called him. It's Cornet. It's a silent T. There you go. Here we go. I knew Sean would know something about this. Viborg is short for Victor Borg. Am I meant to know who Victor Borg is? I guess I should do. You're going to tell me though, aren't you? Good evening, Peter Jones. How are you? Monetary teams and the teams of the new signings in at the beginning of the window. It would have been a completely different game. I have let Moyes down again. You've said something else probably, and I missed it. We got the money. It's just Moyes just not spent it quick enough. I don't know. Neil, all in all, away fans are just another. Oh, well done. I like that. Mandy, there's some sad news. Oh no, Living Newton John passed away. That is sad news. Let's scroll down again. Good evening to you, Scott. How are you, mate? I sure hope we take the. I hope we do too, mate. I really do, and I think Moyes will take it seriously as well. Razor, good show as usual. Thank you very much. If you're free, can you help Moyes to pick the side and tactics 2+? I'll do my best. I wouldn't be, but can you imagine you like having a go at me if I bought the wrong player? Oh, wouldn't live it down. Mandy, we need another central defender on loan as soon as possible. We do. Why on loan? Why not buy him? Trudge. We wasted time on unrealistic targets. This is another thing, and damned if you do, damned if you don't. David Moyes went for players, and I talked about quite a lot of players that he was interested in, the Kostic and Lingard and other players, Zielinski from Napoli, etc., etc. And he went for all these players, and because he's aiming high, he wants to aim high. If he didn't go for them, we would all be saying there's no ambition in the club, and he goes for them, and we're just not ready for those players to come to us. I think Lingard, we should have realised a lot sooner. I think Kostic, we kind of spent a bit. I get it. We spent quite a lot of time on him as well. But we have got a list. We've got a list of players. We know. That's why we kind of gave up on Kostic, and that's why we ended up going for Cornet. No disrespect to Cornet. He's a good player, and I think he's going to be quite invaluable to us. But that is how you do things. You got a list of players. If you don't get your first player, then you go for someone else until you get, it's not that Cornet was just an afterthought. It was Cornet was a player that we were after, but clearly he wanted Kostic first. But yeah, I get you. JTD, good evening to you. I released my first gameplay video on YouTube today and got 8 likes in 1 hour. I know it's not well done to you, mate. Send me the details and I'll promote it for you as well. Garino, just one Cornet, Zagadou, dude, Askamaka. Oh dear. Daniela, I think the issue is these players are looking for a big wage now, and the Premier League has that big money. Onana is prime example. People were asking, well, why didn't we find out how much Onana wanted before we spent 4 months, 5 months trying to get him? I have no doubt whatsoever. We asked what their expectations were, and that changed. From my understanding, that changed right at the last minute. His sister, who's his agent, got sniff of the fact that other teams were beginning to sniff around, and I think she wanted a bidding war. And of course, as you just rightly pointed out, the Premier League, big wages. People see money signs in front of their eyes, and they start thinking all of a sudden that any team in the Premier League you can just pay loads of money for anyone, which is not true. The best of. Good evening to you. Would you prefer Zagadou or Kehrer? From what I've been reading, Kehrer, but when I get to that, I'll explain why. Foe. Peter Jones, not sure, mate. Haaland was on fire, to be fair, but I see where you're coming from. We would have been more competitive. I think we're shopping at a more exclusive supermarket. Competition is tough. Who else we got? Black Country. Scarborough Hammer, look at their history. No spending 2nd of January plus last summer window, 67 million. Look, I know what people think about the board and that we don't spend money, but I think they've kind of shown that we are spending money at the moment. Are we playing catch up? Maybe a little bit. Eamon, Moyes took Antonio off because he was injured, not because he played badly. He had a slight knock, I think. Let's not pretend it was something else. Moyes should have taken him off at halftime instead of risking further injury. Fair play. Matthew, Turkish media saying Galatasaray want to loan Vlasic. Wow, that's another one on top of the other teams that are interested in him. Excuse me, my phone is ringing and I'm getting distracted, so my apologies. To build a stadium like the Oli, it could have cost over 600 million. Are you talking about rebuilding our old stadium? Sorry, I I didn't understand. Andrew, Evening Star, I love this. Thank you very much. We will have a good season up there. We will have a good season. It's not doom and gloom. Daniel, good evening to you, mate. I wasn't disheartened by our result yesterday, to be honest. If it was Man United, it would have been 8-0 the way they played, and we were undermanned. So I think it's a compliment that we weren't thrashed. Yeah, good point. Good take. The negativity runs deep in the fan base. The club progression is a slow burner, and Moyes is strengthening. We will carry on so we improve across the board and keep the ball better. I agree. It is a slow burn. I think we're getting a bit too carried away that we want everything now, now, now. We've become a now, now, now society, haven't we? Everything is immediate. Everything is immediate. You know, whether it be, you know, what you watch, what you hear, what you see, what you do, etc. Everything is like that. And I think the transfer business, it's no longer can you build a team over years. Even Premier League managers, they know they've got a lifespan. If they do not get it right, their jobs are on the line, aren't they? Let's scroll down a bit more. Scarborough again. Ben Johnson was good. His distribution is better than anything we have apart from a Gerd. I like him. I don't think the guy should get the stick he gets, to be quite honest with you. I think it's unfair on the young lad. What did he press? What did I press? Did something happen there? Stans lad. Johnson would be better than Antonio. Give him a guard up front. Maybe. Look, let's stop there and go to the next part of the show, shall we? Right, sorry about that. I just needed to reply to a message. That's why I played that video twice. So very quickly, what did I just put up? Did I just put up the women's thing? I did, didn't I? Women Academy. Right. So let's talk about that very briefly. We've signed a couple of players. You know, the women's team are signing more players than we are in the men's team at the moment. And Paul Konchesky, he signed. Let me get it right. Vivian Assayi, French international, became Paul Konchesky's seventh summer signing of the pre-season. 28 years of age, joining the Hammers from the German Bundesliga side Bayern Munich. Assayi played for Rouen in France and Montpellier, where she spent 6 years there, making 124 appearances, scoring 43 times. She moved to Marseille and Bordeaux followed with her impressive goal-scoring record. And prior to her move to Bayern Munich, she scored 24 goals across 2 seasons at Bordeaux. She's very fast. She loves scoring goals. Well, she better do. She's a striker and technically gifted player. And I wish her well. Good luck to her in the women's team. And also, we also signed at the weekend Thea Kivag. 18-year-old under-19 Norwegian international. Kivag joined from Norwegian side LSK Kinna. I can't pronounce them. Sorry to my Scandinavian friends. Where she made 40 appearances. She was also part of the under-19 Norwegian squad, which went through to the UEFA Under-19s Women Championship finals. She's an attacking winger, and we wish her well as well. Player on the move, Tameka Yallop left the club by mutual consent last week, and we wish her well. She made 222 appearances for the ladies' team. At the weekend as well, the women's team, well, last week, the women's team had 2 friendly games. They played #United. Is that a real team? Clearly, it must be. They played #United, where they lost 3-1. Then they played Lewis at the weekend, where they lost 2-1. But in fairness, because they've got so many new players bedding in, it's going to take them a bit of time to sort of gel together. The under-21s were played at their first Premier League Premier League 2 game. If you remember, it's no longer the under-23s, it's now the under-21s. There was some rule change. I don't know what it is. Anyway, the under-21s, they kicked off their new season away to Fulham, where unfortunately they lost 3-1. Angelo Ogbonna played in that game in order to sort of build up his match fitness. But it's a shame for the start for the team, because last season they did so well, the under-23s at the time, where they finished second in that league. But they've not started off too well this time. The lineup included Mbama or Dubeko in a 4-4-2 formation. And it was kind of one of those games where it seemed that no matter how hard they were going to try, they just didn't seem to sort of get into any sort of rhythm. The under-18s finished off their pre-season friendlies with a 4-2 win over Charlton at the weekend, and they will be starting their under-18s league. I think it's next weekend. Right. So that's brief. I'd said I'd keep it brief. So there you go. Let's see what other comments we have before we move on. Do you know what? I'm not going to do, because there's a comment about Fabianski. So why don't I go on to player news? So we've got a few injuries to contend with, haven't we? I mean, good grief. You know, the season's just started and we've got no centre backs apart from one. But let's start off first of all with Fabianski. As we know, he went down challenging for the ball at the weekend. And he hurt his hip and he couldn't feel his leg. And there's a suggestion that quite possibly he'll be back for the game on Sunday. But I think we've got to be careful with Fabianski. The knock he picked up early in the game created quite a bit of numbness, and it'd be touch and go if he gets back for the game at the weekend. I would give him a rest and let Areola have a proper go in goal right from the start and see how he gets on. We've got other injury news. I've talked about Ogbonna. He's on his way back, and David Moyes himself alluded to the fact that Ogbonna probably won't be back for another month or so. So it's becoming quite desperate for us to get another another central defender in. Also, Issa Diop, we know, wasn't available for the game. I'm going to talk about him as well. And Craig Dawson has also picked up a knock, and he's been carrying a thigh injury. And there's not much. We're not sure if he's going to be made available for the game against Forest either. I think it's quite possible that we'll still be without Dawson, certainly without Ogbonna. We know Agaird's out as well. So I think David Moyes is going to try pretty hard to get a player through over the line this weekend, a central defender, so that he can plonk him in to the first team. That's going to be challenging as well. You know, coming in. You know, not knowing that the players around you, not being familiar with them, so it's going to be, you know, even if we do get another player in, it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. Otherwise, it's going to have to be another makeshift team, isn't it? And that's not going to bode well itself. Right, Issa Diop. Well, you know, we've heard various stories. Someone said, you know, apparently he put a tweet up or whatever it is, social media he uses, in order to say that, you know, someone was talking shit, because David Moyes said that the player didn't make himself available for the game against, for the last two games, the Lens game and for the game against Man City. So basically, if that's correct, then the player's on strike. And Diop has kind of alluded to that's rubbish, etc. So what do we think and what do we know? And it goes back to what we talked about earlier on in the show about there being some unrest. Look, if you know that you're fourth, fifth, third choice or whatever, you're not going to be happy. You sit down and have a conversation with the manager and you sort of try and clear the air. But if the manager has turned around to you and said, look, this is the situation, this is what I'm going to do this season, then of course, why would you want, you know, we blame players at other clubs that sit there, take the money, never play, but they sort of rake it in, etc. And would we want that at West Ham United? Would we want players to just sit on the bench and rake it in? Diop wants to play football, and fair play to him, to be quite honest with you. You know, but that of course is going to cause a little bit of disruption in the squad. And from what we understand, we've now accepted a bid from Fulham. I think maybe the weekend was the final straw, or also maybe Moyes is pretty certain that he's going to be getting another player in. Excuse me. He did that with Masuaku last week, and then a day or two later, we signed Cornet. And I think Moyes must be very, very confident that he's got another player walking through the door any moment soon. So we've accepted the bid. Apparently, it's a bid of between 15 to 17 million pounds. We're going to lose money on yet another player, but that's life, I guess. And it looks like he'll probably be leaving by the end of the week. But that means we must be getting a player through the door anytime soon. Next up, Nikola Vlasic. Now, there's Torino were apparently the team that there's been talking about signing him on loan. David Moyes would prefer to actually sign him to sell him, but that doesn't look like it's going to happen. And Vlasic looks like he was going to sign on loan to Torino, but today Napoli expressed an interest in the player, and I think someone else said earlier on Fenerbahce have expressed an interest as well, and apparently Besiktas, who have taken on Masuaku, have an interest in him, and also Spanish club Valencia are also interested in him. So there's quite a number of players that are interested. Now, the story I read about Napoli is really intriguing because there's a certain player at Sassuolo who's handed in a transfer request called Raspadori. Giacomo Raspadori, who's an excellent central midfielder. And if Napoli don't get him, they're looking at Vlasic as being the alternative. Raspadori is a very, very good footballer, likened to Carlos Tevez in his style of play, you know, and his approach. And he creates goals, he scores goals, etc. If Napoli are looking at Vlasic being the equivalent to a player like Raspadori, then what are we doing wrong with this player? I think you already know. Everyone says play him in the middle, you might see a completely different player. But I found that rather intriguing that Napoli are in for him because it looks like they may not get Raspadori over the line. Very odd. Next up. No, that shouldn't be next up because I forgot to load an image for Mr. Benrahma. Next up is a story circulating around that Said Benrahma might also be leaving the club this summer, with Nottingham Forest interested in buying the player. Look, I think we all know, we kind of said it. If we do improve, we get another attacking midfielder, plus the fact that Cornet will play on the left side of midfield, we're going to see. Okay, that's good. She's okay. It's my daughter. Sorry. My daughter calls me. I tell her I do the show on Monday nights. Yeah, no problem, Dad. Calls me. She just sent me a message saying, I need your advice. Kids for you, eh? Anyway, what was I saying? So yeah, Said Benrahma, Nottingham Forest are apparently interested in him. And you know, we know he's not going to, he might become second or third choice. If we get another attacking midfielder in, and also knowing that Cornet is going to play on the left side of attacking midfield, it's not just Masuaku that would have been affected with Masuaku gone now, but it also would affect Benrahma. Now I know Fornals is being asked to play out there, but what will happen is Fornals will be played in his central role where he should have been playing anyway, and that means that with Cornet and Fornals likely to play, that means Lanzini out, and that means Benrahma will be sort of second choice. So there's rumor that Said Benrahma might be leaving as well. But I don't think we're going to let any player leave, Vlasic, Diop, or Benrahma, until we actually get players to replace all three. I don't think we're going to get two attacking midfielders. We're certainly looking at a centre back. I still think we need a left back. I still think we do. And I think we're going to have an attacking midfielder. Getting 8 players through the door in one summer transfer window is astonishing. But I hope it's going to be enough for us. So those are the players that are likely to go out. So I'm going to talk next up. Well, let's talk about the player that we have bought. And that, of course, as I said, is Maxwell Cornet. I'm pleased. We got him. Became our 5th summer signing. He's a very, very versatile footballer. If anyone watched my shows over the weekend, you know how many positions he's played. But if you haven't, I'll remind you. He's played 34 times as a left back. He's played 24 times as a left midfielder. He's played 61 times as a left winger or left wing back. He's played 16 times as a right midfielder, 54 appearances as a right winger, and he's played 33 times as a striker. So what that means is he can cover left back. Ideally, we'd prefer him to be more an attacking player. I can certainly see him playing quite a bit as a left wing back, but he can certainly play as a left back if needed. But ideally, I'd rather get a proper left back in for that. On the right side, it's interesting because we've been looking at, someone said about Ismail Assar, and we might be getting him, but Cornet can also fill that role. So if we want to move Bowen into maybe a striker role, second striker or something like that, or even give Bowen a rest, believe it or not, Cornet can play that side, cutting in from the right side. He can also play, as I've already said, left wing back, etc. And he can also play as a striker. He's our new Antonio. He's David Moyes' new pet project, isn't he? And I think that's good. I think it's good to have a player like him. But like I said earlier on, there's an end product with him as well. It's not that he can just play in these positions, etc., but there's a proper end product with this player. And I'm quite pleased. I'm quite pleased. He scored something like 9 goals last season, I believe. You know, he's played for Lyon. He's done a pretty good season at Burnley, despite the fact that they struggled last season. And he's a valuable addition. When he was at Lyon, he made 252 appearances. He scored 51 goals for them and assisted in 29 goals. And last season, like I said, he scored 9 goals despite a poor season with 2 assists for Burnley. So a very, very good signing, I think. Right, before I go into the final part of the show, which is about transfers, all the stuff that you love, let's go into the chat and try and catch up. So let's scroll down. Good evening to you, Stan's lad. How are you? Johnson will be better than... Oh, yeah, I've done that one. Sorry, mate. Let's scroll down a bit more. Graham, teams morale is a big part of our last couple of seasons, but it seems sadly lacking at the moment. I think it will be sorted. I think David Moyes... Vlasic hasn't complained. I haven't heard Benrahma complaining. Diop clearly is unhappy. I think when he actually moves Diop on, it's a shame. I like Diop. I wanted Diop to stay, to be quite honest with you. You know, and given with all the injuries, etc., the irony is Diop probably would have got more game time now than if all these players had been fit. Vinay, sticking with Fabs shows Moyes doesn't know the meaning of fresh blood. He knows it pisses off the fans, and Areola is the better keeper. Moyes is a good manager, but also he's extremely stubborn. Scarborough, love the positive vibes. See my comments above. I'll try, mate. I don't know where the comments gone. I'm really sorry, Scarborough, mate. I've got to scroll down, otherwise I'm only on. That comment was 10:15, so I'm half an hour behind the chat. I do apologize. Good evening to you, James. How are you, mate? I hope you're well, mate. Thank you for joining. John Layton. Moyes is trying to get players in that will fit and complement who we have and are better than what we have. 2 signings and 2 loans with options to buy. I don't think we'll get 4 more players in. I'd love to think that we would, but I'm not so sure we would. Trini, Cornet will only shine if Moyes allows him to be an attacker and not a makeshift left back or left wing back. I think left wing back will be fine. I don't have a problem with that. But left back, yeah, I agree. You know, if he just plays him at left back, that would be a waste. I agree with that. Scarborough, Scamacca and Cornet will add so much attacking emphasis. Add one more creator in there and we are golden going forward. I agree. One of the things we've been talking about has been lack of creativity and lack of pace. This man's got pace to burn. Let's take him off the screen. Cornet's got pace to burn, and so Scamacca. Scamacca's not lightning fast, but you can see he's got good movement, etc. And I agree with you. Put another creative player in there, and you know, Razor. If we're saying Moyes is a good manager, then only compare him with the Grant here, please. His CV is dreadful. Never won nothing. One more season and get in quality. Nigel Khan, who is a regular on this show, is writing some a script at the moment about the managers at West Ham United. It's going to shock you, you know, because how do you determine what a good manager is? So watch out for that. We're going to do a show on it. We're going to do a Friday night live, Friday late special on it when he's finished the script, etc. We'll get all the images together and all that sort of stuff. You'll be really surprised, Razor. You'll be really surprised. Amen. I think we're going to have another good season. I think the fans slagging down Moyes after one game will be kissing his ass come January. I hope you're right. Good evening to you, Kimbo. How are you, mates? I hope you're well. Thank you for joining. And let's get rid of Naked HD. There you go. Thank you and goodbye. Unless you want to start paying me a shitload of money to sponsor, then go away. Trev, evening, Stel. Good evening to you, Stel, mate. Hope you get Saar, a very versatile player with natural blistering pace. We need that outlet player who can travel. I haven't written about Saar today, to be quite honest with you. The only thing I have a concern about Saar is he does get injured quite a bit. But then some of the players I'm going to talk about in the transfer part of the show also get injured quite a bit. So let's keep that momentum going. Black Country. Why wait 3 or 4 weeks for a player? Bid 33 million and all falls over. Extra 20 grand a week. Don't understand, mate. Because we've got to draw the line somewhere. And if we're talking about Onana, when we finally got a bid accepted, this player Onana is on 6 grand a week at his current club in France. We must have talked about a salary of, I don't know, 30, 40 grand a week, roughly, to start them off, roughly about the same, 20 years of age, still young, not proven yet, etc., etc. I think about 30, 35, maybe 40 grand a week might have been the starting sort of salary. They wanted 100 grand a week or more. It's like, what? So you can't just always throw money at a player, and it won't always resolve the. Can you imagine if we bought or not? If we said yes, okay, we bought him for 33, 34 million pounds, paid him 100 grand a week, and he turned out to be shit. What's the first thing everyone's going to say? What's David Moyes doing? Wasting all that money, etc., etc. You got to keep a balance. You got to keep a balance. We can't just throw money at bids, like like I said earlier in the show. We're not a Liverpool, we're not a Man City, we're not a Chelsea, etc. Throwing money around. We don't have it in the same way, and we're never likely to do so either, unfortunately. And we've got to be a bit realistic there as well. I'm not saying that we shouldn't aspire to becoming teams like a team like that, Champions League, etc. But we just got to be careful of how we go about doing it. Good evening, David. How are you? I haven't seen you for a while. Still showing up? Yeah, there you go. I'm glad you joined, mate. I hope you're well. Peter, other clubs sitting in the wings waiting until we agree a price, then they will pounce. That's also true. We do all the effing hard work. We do all the hard work, and other clubs come and steal them. But let's not kid ourselves. Don't think we haven't done that to other clubs as well. We've certainly done it to other clubs as well. Alex, good evening to you. Is Barkley really the level we have stooped at? I'm not saying it's true. I'm just saying what's out there. But I haven't got to it yet. So let's wait and see. John, I don't get why Moyes would lie about Diop not making himself available. Diop had the opportunity yesterday to stake a claim. That's what I think. Diop did have an opportunity to stake a claim, to be quite honest with you. It's really quite odd. Foe, this may sound controversial, but I accept an 11th place finish and put all our eggs in the Europa Conference League basket for our first silverware in many years. A lot of people say the same thing, and it won't be. People will see that as being a failure. If we finish mid-table and win a cup this season, that's a success for me. Because if we win a cup, I think if we win the FA Cup, we go in Europa. I think if we win the Europa Conference, we go into the Europa as well. I don't think we get anything for the League Cup, but still, if we win that, I'm with you, Fo. If we win a trophy this season, I think the fans will be, in general, happy. WHU, that London Stadium catering company that is overcharging supporters is called Delaware. That's who it is. Thank you very much. See, so it's not the club that run the catering. It's this Delaware North have got a contract in place. Nothing to do with us, unfortunately. Dabs, it's quite funny how lazy would or should have started against City. Would he have done though? Moyes talked about Lazy and said, he wasn't part of our plans and it was right for the lad to go. What a shame, he was one of the, and this is what I'm going to try and not do anymore. I'm not going to try and big up our under 21s or our academy players, because the minute I do, they get bloody sold, and it's like, God, what's going on here? Peter, it's a disgrace. The negotiating team has no idea what the player's personal terms. Well, Again, like I said, I think they thought they knew what the boundaries were going to be, and the boundaries changed, because you do not go after a player for 5 months, as apparently. Well, we were interested in this player last summer, and then I think maybe we started building up the momentum of interest 4 or 5 months ago, etc. There's no way on earth that we wouldn't ask the question, what salary are you looking for, etc. There's no way, but the goalpost changed. You can't do much about that. I'm actually quite glad that the club turned around and went, go to Everton then. If that's all, if money is that important to you, go elsewhere. Alex, if Diop refused to play, we should have fined him under contract. Well, that's interesting. That's a really good point, Alex. And I wonder what would have happened if he did get fined or not. Trodge, most people would take mid-table for some silverware, Fo, I think so. I agree. Daniela, if one poor game, it's one poor game. Agents, one of the best sides in Europe, so everyone just chill. Yeah, it's one poor game against a team that's likely to win almost everything this season. Paul, good evening to you. I get fed up of this. It's just one game. Forget it and move on. Nonsense. Those criticisms aren't just basing it on this game. Look at the lazy, horrible football of the past 8 months. I agree with you in that respect, to be quite honest with you, Paul. The tail end of last season was also quite poor as well, and I won't deny that. I won't deny that either. But then that's why David Moyes is frustrated and he's trying to get fresh blood in. So, yeah, you got a point. Tyler, did you see that Mina shagged Sterling Saturday? Did you see that Mina shagged Sterling? I'm sure there's a logic in that. I know you're talking about Sterling and Mina, the Everton player. I don't know. I didn't see the game, so I don't know what happened. Dan, how are you, mate? The seats can't be straightened as the roof. I know that. I hope you're well, mate. I didn't see you. You were in and out of the bloody stadium like a bolt of lightning. I know, but I did say that earlier on. I said, what they should have done is what they did when they straightened out the seating for us, behind the Bobby Moore low and the Trevor Brooking low. They said that the front seats will not be covered, and they compensated fans, whoever wanted those seats, they gave them cheaper season tickets. And so I suggested that they straightened it out a little bit. They could have written to the fans who was there, seated there initially, and said, look, this is a situation. We can offer you that seating. If you want it at a cheaper price, would you accept that? If fans turn around and went, yeah, then fair enough, straighten the bloody thing off. But I think someone else also alluded to the shape of the seating, etc. Probably wouldn't have worked, because that means there'd have been a bigger gap between the upper tier and the lower tier. I don't know. Let's scroll down a little bit. Good evening to you, Girly Boy. Good evening to you. Selling Vlasic will be a mistake. Rather, it was Benny. I want to keep Benny. I want to keep Vlasic. I think there is a good player in there. So but then, if these players are not going to get game time and they're not going to play in their favored positions, then maybe selling them might, to cause even to stop the unrest in the squad. Maybe moving them on might be the best thing. George, not so sure, mate. I think some fans have got used to winning quite often. Well, winning a trophy is winning, isn't it? Alex, Liverpool are one of the best teams in the world, and little old Fulham gave them a game. There you go, Alex. They gave them a good game. But I know what you're trying to allude to. We should have given Man City a good game as well. Razor, Alex Diop has been pissed off for about a week, for weeks, and don't blame him at all. Moyes should have got in a centre-back ages ago when a Gerd injured. Well, that's so difficult, isn't it? Because you got a budget, you know what players you want, with the budget you're going to get X number of players. So you got yourself a centre back, you got yourself your keeper, you got yourself your striker, etc., etc. And the last thing you want to see is having an injury to one of those players and then having to rethink, what do we do now? We know we still need a left back. We know we still need an attacking midfielder. We know we'd like also another, a central midfielder, defensive midfielder. Shit, now we've got a problem that we've got to get yet another defender. And I think, when I go to the transfer stories, I'm kind of thinking that Moyes might play a little smart. I know the players that we've been linked to over the past couple of days, but Moyes might play a little smart, in order, because he might now only have 30-40 million pounds to spend after spending 100 million already, and he might have to play a little bit smart in some of the players that he might be after. But I'll get to that in very, very shortly. Peter, 70% negotiation teams attempt have failed to sign new recruits. But I wonder how many other teams go through that as well. We do live, and I'm not suggesting you're wrong, Peter, but we do live in our West Ham bubble. We think it only happens to us. We think we're the only team that can't get players through the door. We think that we're the only team that can't negotiate salaries, etc. You know, we're not. But because we live in our West Ham bubble, we think it's only us that can't get players over the line. Chris, good evening to you, mate. I hope you're well. Hello, sir. I like that Moyes has stopped dithering. Now sell Benrahma and Vlasic, bring in players that can make true impact. I like Benrahma, though, to be quite honest with you. Paul, good evening to you. And the third, he was our third most productive player attack-wise last season. I don't think we should let Benrahma go, but then, you know. Paul, evening, Stout. I'm concerned with Zuma. I agree. He doesn't look anywhere near fit or comfortable. In general, the whole team looks stale. I do agree with you. Zuma worries me. It looks like Zuma needs time to get himself to a level that's the right level. It might take him 2 or 3 games. He looks sluggish. He looks heavy. He looks sluggish. He did look sluggish in pre-season, but now we've got no choice. He's our only fit centre-back. Lernstick. Scamacca liked how we persisted after him, felt wanted. It works both ways. Good point. Good point. You know, I mean, we've been after other players, and I mean, Moyes talks about Scamacca. We've been looking at him for ages. You know, so I know Moyes wants to look and look and look and not be committed until the last minute, etc. But you know, he thought Scamacca was a fit. You know, they talked to the player. Yeah, we've done it. We've been courting Kostic. We've been courting Zielinski. We've been courting a number of players. If they're not reciprocating, doesn't matter how much you court them, they're not going to come, are they? Chris, still, I feel for Moyes. Zuma is slower. I hope Cornet makes a major impact starting with against Forest. Go for the players that want to come for the manager and the club. I totally agree. Daniel, unrealistic targets. Troj, we got Scamacca. He had plenty of suitors in the Champions League. That is also a really good point. Dan, with regards to transfers, we're not the only club to have been. There you go. There you go. We're not the only club to have been knocked back and taken our time. It happens. There's still plenty of time to get the players over the line. I think what we wanted was, see, there's this false deadline, isn't there? Because the Premier League started on Sunday. Well, for us, it started on Sunday. But the deadline is we've got another 3 weeks to go. You know, transfer deadline. Why do you think Sky Sports have so many millions of viewers on the last day of the transfer window? Because they know a shitload of transfer business is going to be done. And I don't doubt for a minute that we will be amongst those teams getting in last minute deals. You know, so Dan's right. Not everybody sorts their transfers out, you know, overnight. Lots of teams get rejected. Man United, Chelsea, Arsenal. What's the guy's name? De Jong or something like that? Or that's Man United have been trying to sign, knocking them back, etc. So we're not the only ones. Do forgive me for not reading out every single comment. Do forgive me. Trini, when the money train in the Premier League crashes, those teams who have got tighter budgets will survive. The rest won't. That really is an absolutely perfect point. You know, and I talked about it earlier about us being careful with money. And this is one example of that, because one day it will happen. Look at the Spanish leagues, look at the Italian league, look at the French league, who, you know, their money ran out because of the French TV company going bust. It can happen. I'm not saying it will happen, but it can happen. And if it happens, we are going to take a massive nosedive. You know, a lot of teams, the Chelseas of this world, the Man Cities, etc., the Liverpools. You know, West Ham United have got to manage their business correctly. You cannot throw money at what people perceive there to be a problem. You will burn. Leicester City, at the moment, because of the economy itself, whatever is going on, are currently, they haven't signed a player yet, Leicester City. They've got to sell before they buy. You know, and like I said, you know, earlier on in the show, Leeds United were chasing the Champions League dream. They burned badly, you know. And when you do that, when you overspend, when you overcommit financially and things don't go well, all of a sudden you're going to suffer. Daniel, charge, but we only lost 2-0. If that was Man United and maybe Chelsea, it could have been worse. I think we held our own. Our players were injured. Wasn't to do with the transfer window. We did hold our own. It could have been a lot worse. Eamon, I think Cornet will turn out to be a better signing than Lingard. be inclined to probably agree. Cornet is on the way up, whereas Lingard is on the way down. That's irrespective of Forest get relegated or not. It's a really, really good point, that. Yeah, and I actually agree with it too. Scarborough. Black Country, I don't know what Black Country said, do forgive me. Look how far we've come, and some fans are never happy, like you, and very grown up for you. Calm down, people. Be nice. Be nice. I know I've said it correct. Good evening. This is Kenneth. Kenneth is the one that gave me all the information about Viborg. So thank you for that, mate. I don't know if you were watching the show earlier on, but I talked about that. So I really do appreciate it. And there's another Scandinavian hammer whose name I've forgotten that gave me some information as well. So I'm really, really appreciate that. Thank you. Daniel. All small gun... So Frank Skinner, Goppel done, and I do not know. Thank you for getting involved, committee, but there you go. Foe, I don't blame Johnson. Maybe Moyes should have anticipated a need for another centre-back, especially after Agüero's injury. A loan with option to buy would be my preferred choice, to be honest. Yeah, I think he wants to buy a player now, but who knows? Who knows? Let's scroll down. Paul, women in academy, time to go and get... I kept it short. You kept it nicely short, but it's still... I've got to do it. No, I'm going to hold my own here. I know people don't like me talking about academy and women's team, but it's West Ham. It's West Ham, you know. And I talked about the academy guys who played Spurs. Was it last week or the week before, where they thrashed them 8-0? I'm going to talk about that, and I'm going to be proud of it as well. But I know it's not to everyone's taste. Dan, if Diop knew who was leaving, it would make sense. Him not wanting to play in case of injury doesn't make it right, but the player will do what's best for him. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, Mark. Alternatively, his performances were of a better standard, then Diop wouldn't be a second string. Well, you know, that's also true. I actually think Diop is okay. You know, are we going to get players in that are better than him? Excuse me. I hope so. I hope so. Let's scroll down. Trini. No matter who we get, they will not have Premier League experience like Diop. I don't believe for 1 minute he did not make himself available. Otherwise, it would have been fined. I don't know what the truth is. You know, I genuinely don't. You know, you hear one side, you hear another side, you speculate. I'll never judge. You know, I'll say what I've read, but yeah. Juha, remember to show other cap before the Forest game. Still, Wasabi gave us a... They're both asleep, Juha. Razor. Star would advise people to look at Vlasic's stats from Everton to now, and you see he's not a Premier League player and never will be. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. You know, a lot of people talked about Vlasic when he was at Everton, but he was a young lad. Again, he said he was being played out of position there as well, and that's why he didn't do well. He went off. And the reason why we bought him is because he did well elsewhere, and we thought that maybe he'll emulate that the performances here. Hasn't happened. Dan, I'd actually move Benny on. He just overthinks everything, and his final ball was just woeful. It was pretty bad on Sunday. Can be class, but just not often. He's not consistent. Mice. I prefer Cornet to Kostic. He seems like a player who enjoys playing. You know what? That's a really good point. I think Kostic would have been good for us, but Kostic was short term. I'm quite surprised. Moyes went for a 29-year-old Kostic, 29-year-old Lingard, 28-year-old Zielinski. None of them have accepted coming to us. And then in a roundabout sort of way, I'm actually quite glad that they didn't. You know, because David Moyes has been talking about, you know, the Red Bull system that he wants to emulate. Getting a 29 and a 28-year-old isn't going to be the Red Bull sort of approach, is it? So, and I think Cornet is, I agree with you, Mice. I think Cornet will turn out to be a better player longer term for us. Good evening to you, Eben. How are you? Did you see Scar score today? Yes, please. Apparently, a lot of people are talking about him, and I wish I did details about him, but I didn't. Dan, I can't see Cornet playing left back unless we get desperate. He has made it well known he wants to play further forward. I think he'll play wing back. I think he'll play an attacking wing back. I think you're right. I'm hoping that we get a left back in. I really do, because I don't want to see Cornet playing at left back either. Let me scroll down. Wiley boy, I can't pronounce your name. Did you see Saar missed that penalty? So here we go then. He played really well, but he missed a penalty. Was this all tonight or when did he play? Let me scroll down. I'll tell you what, people, how far am I? 10:40, about 10 minutes. Right. Let me catch up with a bit more. Forgive me. Is it Girly Boy? Is it Gurdy? Is that how you pronounce your name? Vlasic is a good player. We need to play him in the correct position and decent players around him. Then maybe we get the best out of him. A lot of people have said exactly the same thing. Good evening to you, Foxes. Have I missed much? Yes. But don't worry. I'll do a roundup at the end of the show, mates. Let's scroll down. Charlie. Kostic is staying at Frankfurt. He wants to be a free agent next summer. I don't get that. He did an agreement. I don't get that. Did an agreement that the agents have deluded. At this point, make Kostic decide if he should join West Ham. Apparently, Juventus are close to signing him. It won't surprise me one bit. He'll get Champions League football at Juventus. He'll get Champions League football at Frankfurt. It won't surprise me one bit if he does stay at Frankfurt and then walk away next season, at the end of next season, command his own salary and signing on fee and all that sort of stuff. Dabs, lots of respect for Burnley and how they treated Conor. He was a good player for them. Yeah. And that is the way you should do it, isn't it? Steve, good evening to you, mate. I think Lanzini, his time is up. We need a creative midfield. He just like Benrahma, Lanzini blows hot and cold. Henry, League Cup, you get Conference League. Oh, do you? Oh. Well, it's all right. 3 years in a row in European football. That's all right. Foxes, he's got to score 2 because I want to say double. Fab. Foe. League Cup win, Conference League. Yeah, FA Cup, Europa Conference. No, hang on a minute. League Cup win, Europa Conference qualification. FA Cup, Europa Conference League. I thought you got into the Europa League. Am I wrong? Win results in Europa League qualifications. Let's scroll down. How far am I? Melvin, good evening to you. I think it's crazy we're letting Diop go. Moyes should do better rotating players. He's better than Dawson. I wouldn't say he's better than Dawson, but I think with Dawson aging or Bonner aging, I've said it many a time, Diop can become better and better, but Moyes doesn't want him. It's a shame. It's a shame. Let's scroll down. Trini, fans are not mad about losing against City. It's the same lack of energy and effort as the end of last season. Very deflating. Fans are not mad. It's very deflating. Paul, have a good night. Great show. Thank you very much, mate. Till next time. Thank you for watching and thank you for taking part. Really appreciated. Daniel, Onana is overpaid. Onana, he should be sang as the money man. Well, do you know what? Players want to get as much as they can, whilst they're playing. I get all that. I understand it. If they get 100 grand a week off Everton, then more fool Everton, I say. Henry, good evening to you. I think if Chelsea get the striker they want, we might let Broja on a deadline day loan or 25 million to buy Broja. Won't get game time at Chelsea and he will be unhappy. Yeah, it's a good point. And he could be that's why there are likely to be last minute silence. Sorry, let's get rid of love chat. Good grief. That's why I think, there will be players. Moyes will be thinking about it. Moyes will try and get the core. I think the core now is he's got to get another defender, centre back, left back, whatever. And then that might be it until probably the end of the transfer window. And then that's where he might go in for a loan signing or a last minute deal or stuff like that. Let's scroll down a bit more. Committee. While we're here, the like button. Thank you very much. I'm no good at doing this. If you're new to the channel, please hit the subscribe button and the like button and hit the bell notification to let you know when I'm next on. And please do hit that like button. It does help the channel. Thank you very much. Thank you for reminding me, committee. Much appreciated. Charlie, I think Scamacca is a player like box-to-box player we need. Diallo, so he can play. We have bad injuries, so David Moyes needs to sign. He does need to sign. And I'm coming up to the transfer part of the show in a minute. You know what? I'm down to the bottom. So what better time to go into transfers? Trust me, there's about another half a dozen or so other names that I didn't even put on those images. So many transfers. You know what I did at the weekend? I did an update show, I think on Saturday night, to update all the transfer stories that had come out in the days, 2 or 3 days prior to the weekend. And I thought I was up to date. And then we have a game, and then today, and all of a sudden, there's another half a dozen players that we're linked to. It's absolute madness. Look, we've talked about it throughout the show. You know, we're looking to improve the squad. We know we have to. We know it's important to improve the squad. David Moyes has talked about in his pre-match press conference last Friday that there was more work to do in the transfer window. And then, as we all know, he voiced his frustration about putting up so many bids in. But sometimes, for whatever reason, bids don't work out. And the fact that he said that bids are being made, to me, demonstrates that we are trying to do our business, that there is more business to do, and that David Moyes and Rob Newman not sitting around just waiting for another player to turn up who might want to play for West Ham United. So they are doing their work. It is frustrating. We absolutely know that, but we've got to be a little bit patient. We've just got to be patient and hope we get the players that we need in. And then, of course, in his post-match press conference, as people have said in the chat, you know, he said the team look a little bit stale and we need more players. He keeps saying the same. Now, I've not seen Moyes do that before. You know, he's been repeating the same mantra now for the last sort of couple of weeks, where we need players, we need players. It's almost as a reminder, maybe to him, to the board, to whoever's listening, that we are striving to get more players in. But that aside, I think we can be safe in the knowledge that we can see more players. So I think we can. You know, I said myself at the beginning of the season that we'll get 6 players. I thought we'll get 6 players and that'll be it. But that wasn't accounting for how many players might be leaving. I really thought that Diop might stay. Foolishly, I really thought that maybe we might decide to keep Vlasic, etc. I never thought we'd actually put Benny. Well, we haven't put him up for sale, but I thought that maybe we'll keep Benny as well. So you know, now 6 is not enough, especially when one of them's injured. You know, we talked about again. We know he's out injured for maybe 3 months or longer. Ogbonna is going to be another month before he comes back. Dawson is now injured with a thigh. He's got a thigh injury. We don't know how long he's going to be out for. Someone said it earlier. Zuma, he looked sluggish in pre-season, and he looked sluggish on Sunday as well. So we've got a problem. Add to that we need to back up or someone to compete with Aaron Creswell on the left-hand side. You can bet your bottom dollar that David Moyes is looking for a centre-back. I think he might be looking for a player that can play centre-back and left back at the same, you know, not at the same time, but you know, that can go from one to the other pretty confidently, not just shove someone in as a left back. But I think there's a possibility that David Moyes might be looking for a left-sided central defender that can also play at left back as well. I think we need I think the Onana transfer story. What was I kind of got it because David Moyes was thinking ahead. He's thinking if we lose Declan next season, at the end of this coming season, then we need a ready-made replacement. Get someone in, be his understudy for a year, and then you know put him in. And so I got the whole Onana thing, you know. So, but now that we're not getting Onana, there should be a bit of money available. So it's going to be interesting to see how David Moyes is going to use the money and who he gets in. So let's start off with came out today. Thilo Kehrer, I'm guessing I pronounced that correctly. You know, apparently there's an interest in both Abdou Diallo that I spoke about a few weeks ago, and now Thilo Kehrer as well. Both centre backs. Kehrer plays. He's right-footed, but he's comfortable at playing left side of centre back and right side of centre back. But he also plays at right back as well. Whereas Diallo, he's a left-footed centre back. Primarily prefers to play on the obviously on the left side of centre back. He can play left back, but he doesn't like playing in that position. It suggested that you know there might be a problem with Kehrer's salary. Well, Kehrer's on 80 grand a week, you know, so PSG pay good money. Kehrer's on 80 grand a week. You know, we might have to up that a little bit to get him, but it would be within our pay structure. You know, all right, you don't necessarily want to pay top dollar for a player like this, but he's a very good footballer. And so paying him 80 grand a week, and he's got 1 year left on his contract, and paying about 20 million pound for him. Do you know what? Why not? This is the sort of player that maybe would be good for the next 5 years or so. This would be the Red Bull type of model. He's a German international. He's made 20 appearances for Germany. And like I said, he was primarily a right back, but he's moved over the past few seasons to a centre back role. Decent passer of the ball, even when under pressure. Got proven ability when under pressure. Played in Champions League as well. A couple of years ago, he played against Liverpool in the Champions League and did pretty well. And he's also capable of contributing to the build-up play. He can carry the ball out a little bit, but he does have decent defensive skills despite that. He developed through the youth ranks of Stuttgart and then moved on to Schalke before moving to PSG on a 5-year deal for £33 million in 2018. He's made 128 senior appearances for PSG, mostly as a right back. He's made 128 appearances in total for PSG, and last year he played mainly as a right back in 34 appearances. He's got a number of clubs after him. Why not? He's a decent footballer, and if you're playing for the German squad, you're not rubbish, are you? Apparently, we've started negotiations with PSG. Don't quote me on that because I can't corroborate that. But he's certainly a player that I think would be someone that we should certainly be interested in. And if we get him for around about £20 million, that might not be bad. And guess what? He can also play defensive midfield. So there goes your Onana. Next up, Dan-Axel Zagadou. He's a free agent. This came up over during Sunday, I think this came up, this story. 23 years of age. He's young, 23 years of age. And he was playing for Borussia Dortmund, but they released him, or he left, or they released him, whichever one you want, at the end of the season, mainly because of his injuries. You know, he's got quite a history of injuries, which is a bit of a concern. 23 years of age, left-footed central defender. He developed through the PSG youth system, joining them at the age of 12. He spent 6 years there before moving to Dortmund on a free in 2017. He made no senior appearances for PSG and only 9 appearances for the youth team. At Borussia, he spent 5 seasons there. He made just 91 appearances, which equates to roughly about 18 games a season. He's missed a potential 83 games throughout his career there. That's because, as I've mentioned, a number of injuries that he's had. Ruptured, the worst one being a ruptured and torn knee ligaments in 2020 and 2021. He's had knee surgery in September of last year with a torn. He's also had torn muscle fibers in March of this year. He's missed a lot of games. And this is the concern, I think, with this player. You know, he might be on a free, but apparently, again, there's a number of teams after him. Apparently, Man United are looking at him as well. He's a France under-21 international. He's played for France under-16s to under-21 level. But I dare say his fitness, the fact that he's been out injured for so long, has probably scuppered his chances of being representing France at senior level. A number of teams want him. Man United, Roma have shown an interest, as well as us. Would I want him? It's an interesting one because Zagadou is clearly a good player, but Zagadou's injury record, I think, would be a concern. Next up, Attila Szalai. Talked about Attila Szalai this time last year, and his name keeps popping up, and then it goes quiet, and then it keeps popping up again. I like this player, Szalai. He was once described as the Hungarian Virgil van Dijk. Anyway, towering centre-back who's been under the radar for quite some time, probably down to the fact that he's not played for any really big clubs. His current club is Fenerbahce, but he's not really sort of made it. He was out. He played in Germany for a while. He didn't quite make it in the German league. He's been sort of lying under the radar, so to speak. He played a while in Cyprus. The Cypriot league is honestly, You know, even I can play it at my age. And Turkey, you know, again, it's not the greatest of leagues, is it? So he's been under the radar, but he's a Hungarian international. He's 24 years of age. He's been at Fenerbahce since January 2021. Signed from Cypriot team Apollon Limassol for a fee of £1.8 million. And he spent his early years in Hungary before moving to Austria. Did I say Austria? Did I say Germany earlier? I do apologise. In Austria, Rapid Vienna in Austria. He rose to the youth ranks, but it didn't work for him. So back he went into Hungary and then to Cyprus, etc. So you can see why he's been sort of under the radar. Now, what I like about him is, you know, if any of you have seen him in action for the Hungarian national team, he's a strong player. He's a very good, strong player. Good in the air, comfortable on the ball. He's got an awful lot of pace, and he can play centre back. He can play left back, and he can play left wing back as well. Not slotted in, but naturally. And this is why I like him. I think he's kind of decent. Good pass success rate of 81%. You know, and with a Gerd out and Creswell needed to be challenged, why not a player like Attila Szalai? Valued roughly 10, 12, 13 million pounds. He could be the sort of player at 24 years of age that we could come in and actually make a name for himself at West Ham. You know, he could be the sort of player that maybe is someone that we're looking at. We can't get carried away at the moment because we're looking at you know, players from PSG, etc. But they're going to cost us a lot of money. They're going to cost us a lot of money in wages. They're going to cost us money in fees, etc. Attila Szalai kind of ticks the boxes. He's not going to be getting paid a lot of money over in Turkey. I wouldn't hesitate. I wouldn't hazard a guess as to what they get paid. But even if you offered a player like this something like a 40 grand a week contract and pay 10, 12, 30 million pounds for him, you got a good player there. You got a good player there. Next up, Eric Bailly. You know, central defender for Man United. A bit like Zagadou. We know he can be a good footballer, but his injury record has been atrocious again. In the time that he's been at Man United, he joined them in 2016 for £34 million. And he's 28 years of age, Ivorian international. He's got 2 years left on his contract at Man United. But he's only made 113 appearances in all that time for Man U. He's had his fair share of injuries, ankle injuries, knee injuries. Last season, he only missed 4 games because of injuries. But in his time at Man United, since 17-18, he's season till now, he's missed something like about over 80 odd games because of his injuries. He's missed a lot of game time. You know, he's played almost as much as he's been out. So Bailly, maybe. Certainly, you know, he's got Premier League experience, but how many injuries are we going to put? You know, we've got problems with injuries already. Do we really want to get players in like Zagadou, like Bailly, who are going to have an injury record that they've got? Look, I've done a bit of comparison. I looked up their stats to see, you know, to try and work out who's the best centre back. You know, and old Mr. Attila Szalai comes off pretty damn good out of it. This is last season's stats for their league that they played in. So Szalai, all right, played more games, more minutes, etc. You know, he's the only one that scored a goal. Pass attempts 1,400. Pass accuracy rate of 80%. Not the best, because the best one was from his name's gone. The best one is Kehrer from PSG at 92%. But things like clearances, Szalai's the best, interceptions the best, blocks the best, total, etc., etc. So he's got a pretty good record. If you compare him to, you know, Bailly, if you compare him to Zagadou, you compare him to Kehrer, who we're after. Look, I wouldn't mind Kehrer at all. I'm not saying I don't think we should buy him. I think he'd be a very good footballer. But Szalai stands up there. All right, you're going to tell me that PSG is the French league is better than the Turkish league, and I buy that. I get it. But these are average stats, you know, sort of to give you a sort of a suggestion as to the type of players that you know, the sort of quality of the player that we might be getting. And Szalai is not bad. He stands up for himself. It's quite good. His stats are really good. Right, let's go into some of the other players that I thought I caught up with last week. Conor Cody, he was linked to us, but all of a sudden he's going to Everton. We think Everton are about to sign him. So the stories about him being linked to us, great, but no. Marcos Senesi, apparently he's signed or is about to sign for Bournemouth. We were linked to him at the weekend as well. Another one, Alejandro Grimaldo, a left back. I like him. We got to go and get someone like him. Left back for Benfica. He's got 1 year left on his contract, valued at about £18 million, 26 years of age. Grimaldo he's another versatile player. He can play in the traditional left back role. He can also play as the modern day left wing back as well. Great technical ability, really good first touch, good decent positioning on and off the ball. He's a player that, one of the criticisms I used to have about Masuaku was his positioning was poor, and he used to watch the game go by. He'd have players ghosting past him, and he wouldn't even know. Alejandro Grimaldo is not that sort of player. He's the sort of player that is aware of what's going on around him. He's aware of the runners. He'll track the runners, etc., and he'll try and snuff out the goal threats. But at the same time, he's got a very good goal threat himself going forward. Like him. He sounds decent. He's been with Benfica for about 6 years after joining Barcelona. And like I said, he's just got 1 year left on his contract. And for a fee of around £18 million, what's not to like? Next up, Ibrahim Sangare. Now, I know what you're all going to say. He's only just signed an extended contract at PSV. I know. But apparently, that's not stopping us from going for this player. Now, he had a £29 million buyout clause in his contract. Now that he's signed a new contract, that £29 million buyout clause is gone. I should have put a high value for him. He's worth more than 25 million. So what that means is, even though he's signed a 5-year deal with PSV, a club can, if the club's interested in him, they know they're going to have to pay over 29 million for him, because that'll be the starting rate for this player. I like him. He's decent. Sangare. The reports came out last week. And like I say, maybe this is a PSV ploy by getting him to sign an extended contract. If someone comes in for him, they'll get a lot more money for him. 24 years of age. He developed in the Ivory Coast before moving to French club Toulouse in 2016. He was with Toulouse for 4 years, making 86 appearances, and he moved to the Dutch league, PSV Eindhoven, in 2020 for a fee of £6 million. To date, he's made 89 appearances for PSV, and he's become an integral part of their system. He's described as incredibly hardworking footballer, and someone who is this is the sort of player that, if we want Declan to become more a box-to-box midfielder, this is the sort of player that will give Declan that freedom. So Declan can maraud forward, and Sangare's sort of player, he plays just in front of the back four, almost a little bit more. Sweeper was behind the back four, but he's the sort of player that will give Declan that opportunity to get a lot more forward if that's what Declan wants. Didn't quite work last season, did it, with Souček and Declan? When Declan got forward, it just wasn't quite the same. So if Moyes is thinking that way, giving Declan more freedom, Sangare is the sort of player that could possibly offer that. Next up is Conor Gallagher. We know who he is, midfielder, Chelsea. He's had great loan spells out to various clubs, etc. And apparently we put in a bid in to loan him for this season, and we've been knocked back. Look, it's going to be interesting. I know Gallagher made his senior debut for the club at the weekend, and he was really happy about that. 22 years of age, etc., etc. But when you've got players like Mason Mount, Kovacic, Kante, Jorginho, etc., how much game time are you really going to get? And so I worry about Conor Gallagher. But again, he could be the last minute type. He could be the sort of player at the last minute where we will go in for a loan deal for him at the death. Because what Tuchel seems to be wanting to do with Broja, we mentioned him earlier, Broja, as well as Gallagher, he might say to him, you got 2 or 3 weeks. I'm going to give you 2 or 3 weeks. I'm going to give you a bit of game time. See how you get on. If you do well, you ain't going anywhere. If you don't do well, I'll loan you out. Now, I don't think Gallagher will fail, to be quite honest with you, which would be a shame for everyone, because he'll be a fantastic little player for us to get. But I think Gallagher will take his opportunity, and I think he'll probably stay at Chelsea. But we'll see. We'll see. And last but not least, Ross Barkley, midfielder, Chelsea, contracted for 1 more year at Chelsea, valued at 10 million-ish pounds, 28 years of age. Now, I know you're all going to sigh. I know you're all going to groan. How many of you groaned and sighed when Jesse Lingard came to us couple of seasons ago. Everyone went, "What the hell are you doing, Moyes? What are you doing?" And it could be another Jesse moment. This one. Look, he's got 1 year left on his contract. Barkley's not going to feature for Chelsea. I'll be very, very surprised if he does. He joined Chelsea 2018, 14 years ago. He's made 99 senior appearances, scoring 12 goals, 11 assists. 2 seasons ago, and I know he's had a load of injuries. I know that, I'm aware of that. But injury-free, how good can Barkley be? You don't get into the England team if you correct. Well, no, maybe you do. But injury-free, how good can Barkley be? He could be a surprise package. He could be the sort of player that might be rejuvenated under West Ham under David Moyes. Look, we know he went to Villa a couple of seasons ago, started off pretty well, picked up injuries and fell away. And that could happen at West Ham as well. But Tuchel is not going to, he suggested, Tuchel said that, going to Villa, he thought he'd be the main star there and he'd relish it, etc. But it didn't quite work out for him. Tuchel's kind of backhanded. Well, it's not, he was basically saying, mate, if you can't do it at Villa at that time, you probably can't do it at Chelsea. He will not play at Chelsea. He might get the odd minute or two, but he certainly won't get as much game time as Conor Gallagher will. And Gallagher's likely to be on the bench for most of the season anyway. I can see this one. I won't lie to you. Injury-free, he could do really, really well for West Ham United. But of course, if he gets injured, that's when the problems start. That's it. I could have put in so many more players, but I will do another show. I'll probably do another couple of shows this week to catch up on all the other players that we're linked to. So let's scroll down. Charlie, I think West Ham should get this ain't on purpose. This is the first one that came up. I think West Ham should get Ross Barkley on loan to buy. So David Moyes needs to sign a centre back and a central attacking midfielder and a left back. So Moyes needs to make the transfer window quickly. Charlie thinks so. And then Sean comes up and says, "Fuck sick note Barkley." And he's injured at the moment too. Daniel, Buy should be called Barley. Please. Buy should be called Barley. Oh, Buy should be called Barely Place. Sorry. Okay. Gwiley boy. Sar scored the same. Scar scored the same what? Martin. I'd actually be glad when the transfer window closes and we can just get on with the football. So would I. Make my bloody shows a lot easier to do. Daniel, Barkley is about as appealing as the Barcard APR. Charlie, but thank you, mate. Thank you for watching. Much appreciated. And thank you for taking part in the show. Really appreciated. See you soon. Stay safe. Blah, blah, blah. Hope David Moyes makes the window excellent. Get in Ross Barkley, Diallo as Szalai. Clive, so Cornet will be utilised as a multi-role left-sided player. I agree. Don't be too surprised if he is used as a left back. I will not. And absolutely smashes it. He's far better than we realize. I agree with you, mate. Absolutely. Gwali boy again. Sar scored a goal from the halfway line, then got brought down and stroked a penalty to. Oh, okay. I didn't know that. Dabs. Thank you, mate. Thank you, Peter. I know it's late, so thank you for watching, Peter. Much appreciated. Dabs. Klopp really pissed me off. He made the excuse after the Fulham game that the pitch was dry. Fuck him. He's always making excuses. Always. You'll never get Klopp, giving credit to a team that played really well against them. Razor. If no Barkley, only if it's in the bank. Gallagher staying at Chelsea. Agreed. As for Buy, maybe the drink is nice, but Menure's useless players. No thanks. All others look good. Yeah, thank you. Douglas. Douglas. Good evening to you from Ohio. Love the video. Thank you very much, mate, and thank you for tuning in. Mr. Mace, good evening to you. How are you? My advice to everyone is to drink heavily on a regular basis. Take the edge off for you. Dan. We dodge a bullet with Onana. He's still so raw and just don't see him getting the football we may have wanted. Genuinely think there are better centre midfielders out there. What do you think of Sangare? Do you think we've got any chance at all? I don't think we do, to be honest with you, but it's interesting. Kevin. Hi, Stel. I think the board will use the sale of Declan's money to bring in another player, considering the board are thinking of selling. The board, look, Declan ain't going this summer, but Declan, almost definitely, if the season doesn't go well next season, look, we know Declan's going to go. We're preparing for it. Onana was a preparation for Declan leaving. We kind of know that. We kind of know that. And I think maybe, when Declan is sold, we will use that money to continue bolstering the squad. We're going to need to, because this time next summer, we're going to face the same issues that we've got now. We've got a number of players at the end of their contracts, a number of players who are aging, etc. Creswell, I think he's still got 2 years left, but he'll be, 33? Ogbonna, his contract would have ended. He would be 34, or he is 34. Dawson, his contract would have ended, and he'll be 33 by the time the season's over. I think Lanzini, they still haven't extended the option to buy, so he'll be going. We've got 4 or 5 players that will be at the end of their contracts. So yes, with Declan going as well, I can see them using that money to rebuild the squad. Yeah. Epic. Kehrer and Zagadou are both injured all the time. Now, I looked at Kehrer's injury. It didn't look that bad. Zagadou, definitely, I agree. But I didn't realise that Kehrer was injured all the time as well. I'll have to double check his stats again then. Daniel, X and Nate HD collaborating. I know, I'm sorry, mate. You get that, like I said, if they want to sponsor my show, they can promote all they want. Bob, sometimes, good evening to you. We should sign Zagadou just for his black lace charm potential. Sean, Szalai, yes, please. I like him. I like Szalai. Absolutely do. How far behind? Not too far behind. Dan, imagine the combo of Zagadou and Zuma at the back and both having the dodgiest sneezing foot. Yeah, Zagadou is his injury record is bad. Schmeigel, Szalai is a good player. Absolutely agree. Daniel, Sean, yeah, like an orgy, chucking up pussy in an orgy. You'd be right. I'm sure you understand what he's on about, Sean. Garino, Szalai would become a cult hero, Julian Dix, Tom Repka type of player. I hope we put in a bid for him. Why not? Why not? Right age, right price, probably relish a step up, a next challenge up. Why not? Entwined Wings, good evening to you. Buy for 8 million will cover. For cover will be a good deal. The only thing is, though, mate, is like I say, his injury record is pretty bad. Is pretty bad. RP Sports, do you agree that Creswell needs to go? No, I don't think he needs to go, but he needs competition, without a doubt. I think Creswell needs a player that's going to be competing for him for that left back spot, is what I think. And then eventually, when that new left back kind of acclimatizes, gets involved, then you probably see Creswell moving on or whatever. But no, not go, but certainly competition for him without a shadow of a doubt. Dan, if you keep Bai fit, he's class. The issue is keeping him fit. Daniel, Bai is good, but he's too injury prone. Absolutely. Carino, we need to injury-free players with current injury problems and number of games coming up. Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. Foe, I think Kehrer sounds the most realistic, especially due to his versatility. Right back comes to mind, and technical attributes with passing and ball carrying. I agree with. Look, he's a good player. I didn't know about his injury record, but he's certainly a good footballer. Why not take Kehrer and Szalai? Your defensive issues are sorted with those two players, not just for the now, but also for the future as well. Let's scroll down a little bit. Let's scroll down. Everyone's saying hello to each other. Committee. You leave Arthur alone, filled in, didn't grumble, scored winner against Chelsea, admitted as a fluke, a gentleman. Good luck to Arthur. By the way, Arthur's team won at the weekend, and he didn't score, and he didn't make the goal. But yeah, he played a full game, and they won 1-0. That Turkish team. Tyler, a lot of players are signing for Premier teams this year. A lot of players are signing for Premier teams this year. You mean from abroad? Committee again. Conor Gallagher would be nice, but probably not till next summer if you know what happens. Well, he's got. I think, like I said, Tuchel is going to be looking at Gallagher, and he's also going to be looking at Broja and making a decision before the end of this transfer window whether they stay or go. So they could be available at the end of this transfer window. Trini, if Moyes is being serious, Gallagher, Szalai, and Grimaldo, get them. Grimaldo, another good left back. Good left back. Gallagher will move from down somewhere before the window's up. He's in the England setup, and with no game time, that won't last. That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point. Please no to Barkley. Please no David Brooks to Barkley. Daniel, Barkley, APR is up. Thanks. Lingard wasn't permanently injured. Yeah, I know. But what I was saying about Barkley is, could he be rejuvenated under Moyes? Could he be? But injuries. You're all right. Yeah, Trini, no to Barkley. Schmeichel would have took Barkley 3 or 4 seasons ago, but not now. He's not good anymore, in my opinion. Yeah. Let's scroll down. Garino, surprise package turning up at the training ground with one. Razor, no chance though. He's not good enough for Chelsea, so why are we thinking of him? I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. Dabs. X says that Conor Cody turned down West Ham to go to Everton. Not surprising. It's because family and game time. Yeah, that's not surprising. Committee, remember when they grew an ear on the back of a mouth? Maybe they could do a knee for Zuma. He loves mice and they love him. There you go again, committee. Let's get rid of Naked HD. They're back. Thought I blocked them. There you go. I bought them now. I have now. Let's scroll down. What else have we got? Yeah, Naked. I'm sorry, people. I can't help it. I've got no moderators. I did ask last week. No one came back to me. If anyone wants to be a moderator on this channel, message me on westhamvoice@gmail.com and we'll talk about it. Trev, Barkley on loan is fine. Could surprise us. Need to ensure the option to buy is in there if things work really well. Yeah, not an obligation. Well, no, he'll be free at the end of the season anyway. He's in his last year of his contract, so he'll be free anyway. Tyler, I feel like Dean Garner will fit our team as of now. He hasn't done well, has he? Sean, I think Celtic are actually interested in faux mugs. Schmeichel. There's still a lot of good players available in the free transfer market. There are. Should do something like that. I should do a show about all the free transfer players. Neil, you're in the background. Reese, you're in the background. No, how are you both? What's this? Don't worry. Beanie, oh, you're in the background. Fuck you, oh my word. You're all there. I hope you're well, Beanie. I hope you're well. Oh, Jesus. Naked HD, do me a favor. Go away. Or send me an email and tell me how much you wanting to sponsor the show for. Reese, get me and Neil on like you had on. Email me on westhamvoice@gmail.com and tell me. If you're interested, tell me. Beanie, we have enough love on this channel. Chanel, am I I've forgotten what it is. Am I a perfume now? Double N. I'm only joking. Good to see you. Trini, Naked HD. I like bots. As soon as one account is blocked, another. I know, mate. I know. Bloody annoying. I'm down to the bottom. Well, thank you very much, everyone. Can you find Marco Boogers, Schmeichel Boogers, get him out of retirement? When you block them, report them to. Yeah, I'll try to, mate. Right. Thank you very much, everyone. Much appreciated. Always a pleasure. We've done 2 hours yet again. It's almost tomorrow. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for being part of the show, commenting, etc. Reese and whoever else, message me on westhamvoice@gmail.com and we'll take it from there. You're more happy to have you on as moderators. Here's a question. Entwine, who do you think, who's a player you think West Ham should sign that we aren't interested in? That's a good question, mate. Jesus, I don't know. I read so many stories. I lose track of like who we're linked to, let alone thinking of others. I don't know, to be quite honest with you. And we're linked to him. I think Szalai is a good player. I think we should go for him, to be quite honest with you. Or we should go for one of Borna Sosa, another left back, but we've been linked to him again as well. So we need someone like that. Anyway, thank you very much. Much appreciated. If you're new, hit the like, subscribe button and bell notification and all that sort of stuff. Really appreciate you watching. Really appreciate you being involved. And we'll see you soon. There'll be other shows coming up this week, etc. So watch out for those as well. I really appreciate your time. Thank you for watching. And I'll see you all very, very soon.